We often hear how artificial intelligence will inevitably be the death knell for jobs, but OpenAI's Sam Altman believes large language models like his company's ChatGPT could actually be a boon for workers. The chief executive says employers and unions should be incentivized to run a 32-hour or 4-day working week pilot with no loss of pay so that workers receive what he describes as an efficiency dividend from AI. But how would that work, and what's stopping these companies from sacking employees en masse once they realise AI can do the work faster and cheaper? Well, to help us understand is the futurist, AI expert and author of Digitally Curious, Andrew Grill. Evening, Andrew.
Evening, Kate.
What do you make of Sam Altman's comments then? Try a 4-day working week, lean into AI and let it reinvigorate your workforce.
Well, let's unpack this. I've read the paper a couple of times, and if it hadn't been from an independent think tank, I would have not been surprised. The fact is, it's been written by one of the major players. They actually say that the power in AI shouldn't be concentrated in the hands of a few small companies, and that's exactly what they are. So he's pulled out the 4-day week work, but AI won't hand that to us. It might make work a lot easier, but legislation and governments will decide whether we have a 4-day week. The challenge at the moment is, even though AI is very effective and very efficient, there are processes that just hamper us. I've spent the last 3 years since ChatGPT was developed and launched talking to senior leaders about what they can do with AI. They're all hampered by existing processes. The technology is there. In a way, it's growing much faster than we expected, but we're not ready for it. So 4-day week sounds great, but it's a great bit of marketing from OpenAI rather than a real doctrine.
There's been a couple of studies into this, actually. An 8-month study into how AI tools changed the workloads of employees at a US tech company. It was published by Harvard Business Review in February, found that the tools did not reduce the work, but intensified it. So in other words, employees used the efficiency gains to take on more tasks. They were just given a higher workload. So not a 4-day working week, but take this AI, let it revolutionise your job and we'll give you more to do. There was also some analysis. So 164,000 workers, their activity was monitored by ActiveTrack, the productivity software company, and they found that after AI adoption, work intensified again across almost every category, with the time spent on email and messaging more than doubling. So what you've got here is not, why not take a day off because AI is making your job so much quicker, but any company who is commercially minded is going to use AI to encourage their workers to do more effectively, to be more corporately efficient, to create higher profits.
Well, remember when mobile phones came about, we all thought, well, this will actually allow us to work anywhere in the world. Now we have to work anywhere and we're always on call. So you're exactly right. But it goes back to the point that I mentioned that this technology has come upon us way too quickly. I talk to my clients about reimagining the way work gets done. And those studies that you quote are on people using AI on top of existing broken processes. So I see a day when we aren't manually replying to emails, our AI agents, and people talk about agentic AI, will actually be handling some of that minutiae. When I get asked all the time, Andrew, will I lose my job through AI? I look at the fact that if you look at how I get my work done, you get your work and job done, think of it as a series of tasks. And you can slice those tasks and you can slice away the things you don't want to do and focus on the things that you love. Now, that will require a massive reimagination of how we get work done. I don't even know, and many people couldn't tell you how that will appear. But if we're looking at AI on top of existing processes, we'll have inefficiencies. It actually requires a complete overhaul of the way work gets done, and we're not ready for that yet.
I always say, you won't lose your job to AI, you'll lose it to someone who knows how to use AI. It feels like it's here and it's established. Would you agree with that? Are we utilising it enough? Is there still too much fear of it?
There's a lot of fear and there's a lot of hype. And that phrase, I think Jensen Yang from NVIDIA was quoted as saying that one of the earliest times, AI won't take your job. I think AI actually demands better humans. So if AI can do things faster, It surfaces better quality information. Are we ready to apply our critical thinking and actually look at the outputs of that AI and make a better decision? So actually, we're going to have to be smarter because the AI will deliver the results and say, okay, are you ready to analyze that? One thing that worries me is that critical thinking isn't being taught in schools and it's not being taught at home. Parents actually have to start asking their kids, are you looking at this AI output and are you believing it or are you questioning it? That's what worries me the most. That the answer is there, but no one's challenging it in the right way.
Will we still have to keep challenging AI? Will it not get to the point where it is so intelligent and so tuned into being correct, into meeting our demand for that accuracy, that it will ultimately be correct? We won't keep having to second guess it.
It's about the source of truth. If you use a public AI system, it's been trained on publicly available data, and I know that some of that data is wrong and is incorrect. If you train it on data inside the organisation, if you put it inside the Times archive and you go through that, you know who wrote the article, you know the source of truth, so the AI is more likely to give a better quality answer because you know where it's come from. I think what you will have to keep challenging is, where is the source of data? Is it something I'm aware of and I trust and I know where it's been written? Or is it a vague conspiracy theory on the internet? I think what I'm going to actually propose that AI builds in is, before it allows you to ask another question, ask another prompt, it might ask you, do you understand where that answer came from? And do you understand what I'm asking you and what I've given you? And actually challenges the human and allows them to keep using it only if they've applied some critical thinking. That may be the barrier we need to keep the humans on their toes.
Another policy recommendation in this paper, in OpenAI's blueprint, is looking at a robot tax as one measure to shift the tax burden more onto businesses, as AI is expected to boost corporate profits and capital gains while reducing revenue from income taxes. Just explain that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but you'd expect that someone that doesn't want to pay a tax would be saying that. How about if we turned it around and said there's now an AI tax? If you're spending all this money building servers and consuming electricity and power and water, we're going to tax you because you're making so much money as a result of AI that we're going to take a tax out of you. I think the AI companies would probably push back against that, and many of them, when the EU AI Act was launched a few years ago, many of them lobbied hard so they wouldn't be regulated as hard as they might have been. So I think it's all very well for them to say, hey, you should tax that, but I don't see in their document anywhere they've said they'll put their hand in the pocket. At the very last line of the document, it says, we'll give you up to $100,000 for a great idea, or $1 million of AI credits. They're not saying we're going to set up a fund, we're going to set up our own universal credit, but they're the ones making these huge profits at the moment.
Really interesting. It's a 13-page blueprint published yesterday, and the suggestion from Sam Altman that companies try a 4-day working week to embrace AI and give the benefits back to employees. But as you say, it is perhaps a little thin, that suggestion, in reality. Thank you so much, AI expert and author of Digitally Curious, Andrew Grill. Good to speak to you.